The MDX and the RDX and the Integra need to be the core models that compete at an exceedingly high level against its competition. And it seems like the market is saying that they are not. And the cavalry, that is the hybrids that we've been talking about in this video, might not come for 3 to 4 years from now. It crushes me. It crushes me to see Acura so helpless at this point. Monterey Car Week has been a surprise this year. This Lexus Sport concept that looks like a battery electric next-gen LFA took us all by surprise. I'm still trying to pick my jaw off the floor with this Corvette concept, 2,000 plus horsepower and a 90 kilowatt hour battery. The canopy pops off the top, and this interior looks like I'm getting stretched through space and time. And no surprise, you'll be able to play it on Gran Turismo 7. And then we had the reveal of the RSX. I brought that to you firsthand. It's a very pretty car, and it is fully electric, and it's launching late 2026 into a market that no longer has an EV tax credit, into a market that is cooling on EV adoption. So look at this title. Automotive News bringing us the scoop today as Acura finally admitting not defeat on EVs, because they still want to go EVs, but admitting that EVs are not the answer right now, or the only answer right now. And they're going to be finally bringing hybrids into the market, something that Lexus is printing money with right now. The Germans have plug-in hybrids. Acura used to have sport hybrids. They ditched them thinking fully electric was the answer. And here we are, back to square one with hybrids for Acura. I'll give you guys my thoughts on this. We're going to break it down. If you guys are excited for Acura to return to not only hybrids, but that also means improving their internal combustion engine performance, make sure to smash that like button. That's smashable material there. Acura will add gasoline electric hybrids to the U.S. portfolio to adapt to growing consumer preferences for the fuel-efficient powertrain. This will also help them stay flexible amid slower EV sales in America. And Honda CEO, American Honda CEO specifically, not Mibe. Mibe is the, global CEO, but Honda CEO for America, Takezawa-san. And it's just ironic because here they are debuting this EV that's not coming out for another year, maybe longer. And they're saying, yeah, fully electric. This is just one of the options that you have, but we're going to have hybrids. The thing is, I don't think they're going to have hybrids before this launches, and maybe not that soon thereafter this launches, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Takezawa-san said, our speed towards electrification was much slower than we expected. So we had to change our plan, and we need to be very flexible. Our initial plan was to go straight to fully electrification, but looking at the customer demands, it is not realistic. It's also very expensive too. I mean, the ZDX stickers about where the MDX Type S does, and we know which one's cheaper to lease because Acura needs to get rid of the amount of ZDXs that are being printed in GM's plant in Spring Hill, Tennessee. So Honda and Acura are losing money on their EVs right now. I think they're happy doing that to get their products out to customers, real customers, instead of paying green credits to Tesla or something like that. They'd rather take their loss internally instead of paying someone else to cover their gap in emissions, I guess you could say. And American Honda's director and senior managing executive officer, Katsushi Inoue, says that Honda's going to increase hybrid production and sales to represent over 60% of global sales. Minimum 60%. And you're telling me that they were planning this and then they just now decided that Acura should get some hybrids too? It's frustrating from an Acura enthusiast perspective. They had the sport hybrids. They had the NSX hybrid. And then they ditched them thinking, and it's just poor market prediction. All right. And then you have Lexus. Like, it's just like the complete opposite end of the coin, right? From two Japanese upscale automakers. Lexus, more traditional luxury, Acura doesn't say they're luxury. They say they're, the performance division of Honda. They're both luxury brands, okay? You have Lexus not being able to make enough hybrids for the consumers, and even though they're the #1 hybrid luxury producer in the United States, and then Acura, who was too early to the market. Isn't that crazy? When they had the MDX Sport Hybrid, the RLX Sport Hybrid, they even had an ILX Hybrid for a bit. They preceded hybrid demand. Okay, and then you could be saying the ZDX and the RSX are also preceding fully electric demand. I think fully electric demand will grow, just like hybrid demand has grown since the late 90s when the Honda Insight and the Toyota Prius were like shaking things up. In a way, said, we will maximize the production of ICE and hybrid models to meet the needs of our customers and to fuel investment in technology. It also helps right now that CAFE fines are out the window and EPA is being deregulated as we speak. And this will lead to Honda and Acura holding on to internal combustion as long as the consumer demands. And I've been saying for years now, ever since Honda announced by 2040 they would be fully electric in all modes of transportation, including motorbikes, whenever they said that, I'm like, Honda, the Honda that I know and the Honda that is Honda because of their internal combustion pedigree. They make some of the best engines the world has ever known. And without internal combustion engine, if Honda steps away from that, where does Honda find a new identity if everything just feels the same with an electric car? Anyway, went on to say we have not changed their commitment to electric vehicles. It's just about adjusting the timing to match the needs of the customers. Okay, so they're saying, hey, Honda will be fully electric at some point. They still have this hard cutoff by 2040 where they think they'll be fully battery electric, and it could happen. There's a lot of time. But as I think about it, it's only 15 years. How long did it take for hybrids to go from a cutting edge technology to the propulsion system of preference? Okay. It took about 25 years. But hybrids also don't have any range anxiety. Hybrids don't have any sort of necessary requirements from a maintenance perspective or ownership perspective on top of a gas car, unless your battery goes out. But that's extraordinarily rare. And it's getting cheaper and cheaper to change out your hybrid batteries. Let's say if it has 1 million miles on it, or it's 20 years old or whatever. Takazawa-san went to say, we're trying to shift our direction toward hybrid, but we don't have a concrete plan with which model or when. He says, I can assure you we're working very hard to come up with a hybrid solution for Acura customers. I like that he says something specific for Acura customers here. I hope it's not just Honda's 2-liter hybrid that we're going to have in the Prelude. It's a fine hybrid system. It's not a high-performance hybrid that Acura deserves. Acura needs to have the 2-liter turbo hybrid, a V6 hybrid, a V6 turbo hybrid, add plug-in hybrids to get extra juice from it if necessary. If we go to Acura's website, they are blasting this to get the ZDX in the hands of customers before the EV tax credit ends. And I think it's a decent SUV. I'd say it's just solid there, but it's not really Acura, right? This is it's a reskinned General Motors product, but it looks cool. I'll give it that. The ADX is already getting some aggressive-ish offers because, well, it is the least Acura I may have ever driven. There's nothing sporty about it. It's very comfortable and it has great features and it's quiet, which makes it a good luxury vehicle, but it's not in tuned with Acura's precision crafted performance brand. Like 0 to 60 on this was like over 9 seconds or something. That's not good enough. And if this just had Honda's 2-liter hybrid, which I would say it's fine in this size of vehicle, it's 2-liter hybrid, it would be way better. But it doesn't. It has a CVT with a 1.5 turbo. The Integra also could benefit from having the 2-liter hybrid. This is what I mean. Hear me out. I think Integra should be hybrid standard. And then you have the optional 6-speed manual for the Type S and the A-Spec. Okay. That's just my 2 cents. But we know that the Civic hybrid's faster than a Civic Si in a straight line anyways, or at least from a stop. In a stop it is, and in a straight line. Once you start throwing around the turns, the Si, with its grippier tires and its better suspension, will smoke the hybrid, and the hybrid's kind of low resistance tires. But I'm telling you, Integra could absolutely benefit from having just bring over Honda's 2-liter hybrid. Just bring it over. And then we have the RSX prototype coming in second half of 2026. Again, I think it's gorgeous, but it is impossible to take this vehicle and make a hybrid out of it. This is fully software defined with Osmo OS. It is fully battery electric with a mega casted battery pack casing underneath. And it's going to be a pretty dang good EV, but it's not going to have 800 volt charging architecture more than likely. And it might not have that great a range. Time will tell. But I think they'll be able to get the performance end of it down, but that's not that hard to do because EVs are inherently fast. All right, if you want them to be fast, it's easy to make them fast. You guys know what I mean. All right, so with the TLX gone, here's what I heard, and you can take this with a grain of salt. I don't believe it personally, but someone, an Acura dealer, or claims that they work for an Acura dealer, again, take it with a grain of salt. I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. They said that there's going to be a hybrid TLX coming. They just discontinued it, so I don't understand why they would bring it back with a hybrid. I don't like. It might help sales, but it's in a sedan, and we know sedan sales. There's a reason why the TLX got discontinued. All right, and we know why Accord sales are down too, partially, and you could say largely due to the Marysville auto plant to make EVs. How they've been modifying that plant massively. Integra sales are down a little bit, and if it had a standard hybrid instead of the CVT turbo combo, I would be more drawn to it. All right, if it started, let's say, okay, because the Civic hybrid starts at 30,000. At the Integra hybrid, what does the Integra start at? When could we see Acura's first hybrids? Well, I think the RSX is going to come before then, so late 2026. Best case scenario, in my opinion, unless they bring the 2-liter hybrids over to the Integra and the ADX. But performance hybrids, true performance hybrids for Acura wouldn't come till 2027, 2028 at the earliest. They don't have that compelling of a lineup. I love Acura. It hurts me really a lot to say that they don't have that compelling of the lineup. The Integra is fantastic, but how much different is it than a Civic? It's like a restyled Civic with a nicer interior. The ZDX is a General Motors product. The TLX is gone. The ADX is a very expensive HRV and it's very slow. The RDX is really long in the tooth with no hybrids. And the MDX V6 is just okay. All right. The Type S is fantastic, but the standard MDX is not up to the standards that I have for a vehicle in its class. All right. When it came out, it did, but in my opinion, the NVH isn't as good as it should be. The engine's very loud. The driving dynamics isn't very sharp in it, unless you get the Type S. The Type S is a completely different monster than the standard MDX. So I want to finish with Acura sales. Acura, even though there was more selling days in July 2025 versus 2024, and we didn't have the CDK outage this year like we did last year, Acura cars in July down 17%. Acura SUVs down 7.5%. They call them light trucks. So total down 9.8%. They're heading in the wrong direction. On the year, their cars, the TLX and the Integra, are down 23%. Overall, they're up 4.4%. But like I said, minus 10% essentially this past month. They're not heading in the right direction. And there's nothing coming out this year that I am, or maybe in the next few years, that I am like holding out hope for that's going to change their fortunes in the short term. We might have to wait for years and years and years, 2027, 2028 earliest, for Acura hybrids to come in. Like I said, unless the Integra and the HRV's big brother, the ADX, unless they can get hybrids swapped in from the Honda side of things, I just don't, I'm not that hopeful. Okay. It's really sad and it hurts me to say it, but let's just look at the Integra. Integra is down 30% on the month of July, 27% down on the year. Looking at Integras in my area, a base Integra is $34,000 and you can get it discounted to $32,000. That's what we're seeing here, maybe even more. The issue I have with the Integra is that its base powertrain can't hold a candle to the Civic hybrids, like I mentioned. As a precision crafted performance brand, it's slower than a Honda that costs less money than the Integra. It's a hard pill to swallow. The TLX sales are slightly up, but look, it's down, it's canceled, so it doesn't matter what its sales are. ADX, this vehicle alone, as well as the ZDX, is saving Acura. If you take out the sales of the ADX, which you can't just remove it from here, but how long will the ADX sales be as strong as they are? Supply is quite good. For example, if I look at ADX, there's 569 ADXs versus Integra 307. Integra built in Marysville, Ohio, ADX in Mexico. So tariffs could mess things up. But if you remove the ADX sales, which I'm telling you, it doesn't feel like an Acura. It feels like a slow luxury car. So you take those sales out, and then you take out the ZDX's sales, which is a General Motors product, and Acura's losing money on ZDX because they can't move them. They have to incentivize them to the moon. All right. So you take out about 18,000 in sales. That brings Acura's sales to 60,000 versus the 75,000 last year, where they weren't selling ADX and they weren't selling ZDX really that a year ago. So their sales have absolutely plummeted. If you think about it, last year's lineup versus this year's lineup with the same cars, it's down about 20% Acura. All right. The ADX is saving their butts right now as well as ZDX. At least ZDX appears to be saving their butts, but we know that this big number here is not, it's not a healthy number. It's not a sustainable number, as they have to incentivize these richly. MDX just got a refresh, yet it is down 15%. That shouldn't happen in theory, right? It should be gaining momentum, and it's losing momentum. The RDX, which has been how long has the RDX been out? I was selling for a Lexus, I think, when it was brand new. So this had to have been 2018. Yeah, May of 2018. Model year is a 2019. So now we're going into 2026 model year with no major updates, just tiny refreshes. And I believe it still has an Acura touchpad on the inside. RDX has a good availability here, but not as high as where it should be, in my opinion. TLX has a pretty high volume here, despite how low it sells. MDX has an okay volume. Look how many ADX. You have almost double the amount of ADXs available in my area versus an MDX versus an RDX. Looking at Cox Automotive, Acura is sliding in terms of days supply. So their sales are down. Their inventory is not that high. Despite their inventory not being that high, they have a high days supply, much lower than the industry average and much lower than Honda's. Look at Toyota and Lexus, neck and neck in terms of day supply. They move cars so fast, and many of their models are pre-sold or order only at this point because they can't keep up with the demand. Honda's close. Honda's outpacing the industry by a lot, destroying everyone that's not a Toyota or Lexus in terms of fast sales. How do you have this huge disconnect from Honda and Acura when they're owned and operated by the same company? Toyota and Lexus neck and neck. Do we see some big disconnects out there from other mainstream and luxury brands? Well, if you look at Chevy, where's Cadillac? Yep, there's a big disconnect there. Hyundai, where's Genesis? Big disconnect there. Nissan and Infiniti are neck and neck, so that lines up a little bit more. And while the volume is relatively low, seemingly for certain models like MDX and RDX in my area, Their day supply is high, meaning they're not selling fast, and minus 17% on the year, minus 50% on the month of July for the RDX. 50%, minus 22% on the month of July. These numbers on the year continue to get worse for Acura's traditionally best-selling models, MDX and RDX. Makes me really, really worried, because if their core models are not carrying the brand, this flash in the pan with these ZDX sales, a flash in the pan of a brand new model like the ADX, I don't think it's going to be a sustainable long-term business method. The MDX and the RDX and the Integra need to be the core models that compete at an exceedingly high level against its competition. And it seems like the market is saying that they are not. And the cavalry, that is the hybrids that we've been talking about in this video, might not come for 3 to 4 years from now. It crushes me. It crushes me to see Acura so helpless at this point. You have Honda cruising right along, the mainstream brand cruising right along, and then Acura kind of like this afterthought in the wake of that, of what is Honda. And then Acura's boat is also taking water at this point, where Honda's steaming full speed ahead. I wish I had better news for you guys. And I wish that this RSX was, unfortunately it's getting buried, in my opinion, right now with this hybrid news. And the realization that Acura is in a really bad spot right now because they decided to go all in on EVs. But I can't be the only one who is fired up and emotional about what's going on with Acura. So I'll see you guys in the comments. What are your thoughts? Is Acura just going to continue to diminish before hybrids? Is it too late when the hybrids eventually arrive for the brand to be strong again? For it to be what it truly should be, which is a performance division of Honda that's highly desirable. It's not that right now, unfortunately. And maybe it hasn't been in a long time. But I'm glad Type S is back. That's something in the right direction for Acura. Integra being back is a good thing, but no coupes for Acura, no true performance sedans outside of the Type S Integra. The TLX is gone. And what could be one of their best sellers, the RDX, a shadow of what it actually could be. No hybrids in their lineup. The V6 Turbo, which should be standard on the MDX, is a $70,000 option. Oh man, it's rough. It's rough times. I'll see you guys in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.